everyone, Kristina Werner here with another video for SimonsTheStamp.com. Today I'm going to be using these two products from Simon's latest release, Hand Lettered Friends Cling Background Stamp and the Nested Hearts Masks. These masks are really great because you get 4 sizes of hearts and you get 8 pieces. So you have the heart frame masks and also the interior pieces for all of your masking. I'm going to be using one of the heart frame masks. And the idea is I wanted to have a really large heart on my card and have it sort of off the edge of my A2 card. But to make it easier on myself, I decided to go ahead and work with the mask using some 6x6 cardstock. So the cardstock is roughly the same size as the mask, so I can just nestle them in the corner of my MISTI, and I'll have the same positioning for everything I'm doing today. I'm using 2 colors of ink. I've got Taffy and Sweets, and Sweets is the first color I'm using because it's the lighter shade. And I'm going to do some ink blending right on the edge of that heart mask. I want the color to be concentrated on the edge, so the center of the heart is a little bit lighter. So I'm going around with this blending brush. This is one from Honeybee. You could use any blender brush for this. Simon has a great line of brushes. So I'm going around adding that color right on those edges. So one of the reasons why I'm doing this ink blending inside my MISTI is because immediately after doing my ink blending, I'm going to go ahead and stamp right over the top. And so I wanted to make sure that the stencil was in the exact same spot for the stamping as it was for the ink blending. And the MISTI works great for this because you can nestle that cardstock and the stencil right in the corner of the MISTI's frame, and then it's not going to move. Plus you have the added benefit of using that really strong magnet. So I brought all that Sweets color all along the outer edges and kind of smoothed everything out. And then I picked up my cling stamp and I first removed the mouse pad from underneath everything. Then I nestled my project back into the corner along with that stencil. And then I brought over my cling background stamp. I placed that right over the top and then closed the door of my MISTI to pick it up. And I had to really press down to pick that up. Then I'm going to take the other color of ink, which is called Taffy. It's a little bit more of an intense, saturated, kind of magenta shade. And I pressed it down onto my cling background stamp and inked it up really, really well. Then I pressed down that stamp directly over that stencil that's protecting the white areas on my cardstock. I'm going to take some time and really walk my fingers around this stamp, making sure I put quite a bit of pressure on those edges where I'm kind of thinking in my mind where the edges of the heart is. So I'll lift up and it takes the stencil with it, but you can see how clean I got that stamped image right up to the edge of that heart. So like I said before, this is going to be an A2 card. So I'm using my A2 layers dies from Waffle Flower. And I'm just going to cut this down to the perfect A2 size. You could definitely do this with a paper trimmer, but when you use dies like this, it gives you a better idea of exactly what you're going to get. I'm now using 3 dies from Simon. I've got the etched laurel leaves, leafy branch, and I think I'll keep you. I cut out the I think I'll keep you out of some matte gold cardstock from Simon, and then the leaves from vellum. And I wanted to make the greeting really stand up off the front of the card. So I cut out 3 additional die cuts using the words just out of some white cardstock. And I'll be able to stack those and get a really thick, substantial greeting. So the die is actually included in the limited edition of Valentine's Day. I think it's called Happy Mail card kit. It is still available right now, but you can also buy it separate. And I love this greeting, so I wanted to include it on this card. So I'm going to stack the 3 white die cuts first, just on top of each other. I'm using some Honeybee precision glue to stick them together, as well as some tweezers to hold them in place. And after I have them kind of initially put together, I'll I then use my fingertips to wiggle them and make sure they're lined up just right. That's why I like to use liquid glue for this, because it's a little bit more forgiving as opposed to using like a dry adhesive. So I'll adhere those three all together, and then the last step is just to put the gold die cut right on top. This gives it a really nice finish. It almost makes it look like faux chipboard. So I'll adhere this with all those dots of glue, and then I'll set this aside for a little bit, and I'm gonna glue together the little hearts that nestle in between those words. So I'll press this, and then I'll set it aside to dry. The hearts were really easy to glue together. I just put them all on top of each other and stacked them and then adhered them. Okay, so now I'm going to start assembling my card. I have these 3 die cut pieces out of vellum, and I just wanted to sort of play with them a little bit and move them around on the front of my card, trying to see exactly where I wanted them. I wanted there to be a little bit of a randomness to all of these leaves, and I wanted them to peek out beyond the edges of the heart as well. So after I had them basically in the places where I want them, I then held my die cut greeting with some tweezers, added some adhesive on the back, nice big globs of glue. I did it even more glue than usual because as I press this down over top of the vellum pieces, it's going to adhere my greeting to the vellum and also to the paper. And in doing that, I'll be sandwiching the vellum right onto the paper and adhering it. So if you wanted to leave the vellum as is like this, you could, but there were quite a few leaves that were kind of bowing up and poking, and I thought, you know what, that is just asking for the recipient of this card to have trouble putting it back in an envelope. So in the end, I decided to adhere the leaves that were really poking out quite a bit. I decided to adhere them to the card front. So I just put a little dot of glue on the back of those vellum leaves, and then I had to hold them in place for a little bit so they wouldn't keep popping up. But just this little dab of glue is hardly noticeable at all, and it does hold it in place so that it's a little bit more permanent, and you won't have so many pieces poking up and possibly making it a little bit more difficult to put back into an envelope. So after adhering all of this, the last thing to do was to adhere it to a card base. So I'm using some dot runner from Simon for this. It's a pretty strong adhesive, and I'll just apply that to the edges. And then I'm also going to put a little bit of adhesive right down the center, and then I can press my finished card design right on top. So that is my very simple card design today using stamped stencils. All of the supplies that I use today are available at simonsystamp.com and are linked down below in the video description. Thanks so much for watching today. I will see you guys in another video very soon.